What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla and all these different tickers, and why Tesla's pushing the way it is, as we had some good news that just came out. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. Put in $500 and you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data. And put in $25,000 or more and you're guaranteed 70 free stocks plus 12 months of level 2 data. The offer ends in 24 hours. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with Tesla. Tesla has held support quite nicely so far, and this thing is starting to hold up. We have a new channel that's developing on it, this new range right over here, as we have this resistance zone that Tesla's testing, and it's starting to bounce after we got some good news that came out right after market open. The good news was this right here. Tesla stock is at an early buy point on strong Chinese registrations again, which is some pretty good news. Now, the previous week was a little bit worse than the one we just got. So the numbers were not that great like the last time this came out, but now the numbers have come out very recently. They just came out and things are looking a little bit better, which is once again helping Tesla and it's putting Tesla on track to meet its targets. So insurance registrations were up 19% last week, which is the third highest weekly total ever as the global EV giant looks to beat its prior best ever record when it comes to quarterly deliveries. That is some big news for Tesla. We had some strong Chinese numbers. They totaled 18,300, up 18.8% from 15,400 from the previous week. And that's great news for them. There's also some news that came out that they revamped their Model 3 production, which is decent news. They also are aiming to deliver 1.8 million vehicles in 2023. And China is going to be very key to reach that target, especially for Q4. So with that happening, we can see right here, the total deliveries were about 138,000 for the quarter. That's up 15% compared to the same point in Q3. And the number for Q4 that's coming out is actually 10% higher than the same point in Q2 when they had their record deliveries in China so far. So far, some good numbers are coming out. This surge in weekly registrations is great news for them. And I think that they recently announced that in China, they sold out of the Model Ys for 2023. So they're continuing to kill it. High demand in China, and they're still looking quite decent. Now, with some news that came out about the $1,127 insurance subsidy, that also helps to increase demand, and they're once again targeting some very, very strong numbers. November numbers were also stronger than October. Things are looking quite good. And let's just see if Tesla can try to maintain these high levels. There's a good chance that Tesla could reach these big targets of 1.8 million deliveries. Tesla is doing quite well. So that's why Tesla ended up getting this nice balance. It actually happened after market open, or right before the market opened, like minutes before Tesla got this nice push up. I was expecting a push up, but this was actually better than expected after this good news came out. Now, let me just make something very clear to everyone. So this yellow trend line, you guys could see this yellow trend line. This was historical support. So I didn't draw out this yellow trend line recently. I had this here for months and months. If you go back to the chart historically, the yellow trend line has been matching and holding as support for a very, very long time. Keeping the exact same trend line, it's still holding up. So this is going to be our primary support for Tesla. In order for us to turn bearish, we need to see this break. As of right now, that hasn't really happened. So let me just clarify something. If you want to be bearish on Tesla, let's just say that you're a big bear, you think there's going to be something bad that happens hypothetically, right? What you want to see is you need to see this yellow trend line break, and we have to see this thing lose 252 and then eventually 250. That's how you want to turn bearish. You need to see this thing break. But so far, support has held and it's looking quite decent. Now, when it comes to resistance, I want to note that we have some resistance right here. This is going to be our key level, this 258 area. This is acting as a very, very tight resistance for Tesla. We actually are seeing Tesla kind of rejecting just a little bit off of this, but it's not that significant. It's not that crazy just yet. This isn't like a big rejection. It's just like a slight little like resistance right now, and we're seeing Tesla just retesting this. We also have this support that's developing at 256.75. If we lose that, I could see it retracing towards 255, but I think that Tesla's going to try to hold up a bit. Tesla is showing some strength alongside the market after we got this decent looking trend, and Tesla's back to looking quite bullish overall. So make sure you watch support very close to this 257 area. Then below that, we have 256.75. Then below that, we have this 255 level. As of right now, Tesla's holding up, looking quite decent. We got some bullish news. That's a good sign. We're going to be watching to see how Tesla treats this resistance. If we break this 258 resistance, our next target is going to be close to this 260 area. And then we have this resistance very close to this orange trend line. This orange trend line is in the very low 260s. Watch that as our primary resistance, as Tesla has rejected off that trend line many times. All right, so those are your levels to watch for on Tesla. Very good news finally came out after like the selling we got from yesterday, not to mention the day before, where Tesla was just kind of chopping a bit. So good to see. Now let's just talk about SPY quickly. SPY is actually breaking to the upside, so we brought up the bullish and bearish cases. I told you guys that there's a 50-50 chance for SPY to be either bullish or bearish, depending on which way we break. Instead, the bulls have taken over, and we're starting to see some more buying taking place for Apple and these other big tech tickers out there. And we managed to get above 474, which is a pretty good sign. So now the SPY is getting above this. As long as we close above this or hold above this, there's going to be more bullish potential. This thing is not done just yet. And now it looks like this thing could just continue to uptrend. The bulls are still very strong, and they invalidated these sell signals. So basically we saw this thing retrace a bit. It came back up. It actually failed to get this like big rejection here. We actually came right back up, and I told you if we keep going for 474, we're going to remain bullish. So far that's what's happening. We have some resistance in this zone, so we're going to be watching it, but just wait and see how it closes. Let's see if SPY can try to hold this level. Overall, the technicals on SPY are still looking bullish on the 30 minutes time frame. There's a big shift right now. Apple came down, but we were talking about in order for Apple to turn really bullish, you want to break 197. Apple is not that strong, but it's showing some life. It's trying to hold up. I told you to watch for a potential breakout right here if we try to like hold up. And then we're going to be watching to see if Apple kind of like maintains this range. We might just range trade between 196 and 197. But if you want to be really bullish, I want to see this thing break 197. We're not that far from it. We're actually pretty close. But we need to see a little bit more strength in Apple. There is a potential inverse head and shoulder structure developing, so Apple could make an attempt to push higher, but we haven't seen a break yet of the resistance. So we'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. If it loses this trend line right here, this 196 level, we're going to see this thing potentially sell off. If it breaks 197, we're going to be seeing a nice breakout, nice push to the upside. And I honestly anticipate that this potential inverse head and shoulders could end up playing out. So Apple's looking quite decent. But for now, just watch that resistance on 197 to see how it goes. NVIDIA, I was telling you that NVIDIA is going to likely retrace a bit. We're going to be watching this base right over here. I told you it's going to pop first, then retrace. That's kind of like similar to what happened here. It kind of popped and retraced. And then watch and see if we try to hold this support. This is the support right over here, this 488s to 490 zone. This is where NVIDIA is trying to hold up. And as of right now, it's just barely holding up. Very choppy, very flat. It's going to likely remain like this for the rest of the day. But it's showing some of an attempt to try to like hold this level, if anything. And finally, for the QQQ, this thing is just on fire because we're approaching all-time highs on the QQQ. We had the bullish and the bearish case. Right now, it's basically what I was thinking it was. It would basically kind of like trade sideways in this 408 area. I kind of mapped it out right here. I told you the bearish case is also like this breaking down below the blue trend line. So far, it hasn't really given us the bearish case. It's still holding well above our trend lines, and it's trying to hold above 408. So I think that that's really good to witness, and it looks pretty decent thus far. In my opinion, I think that this is holding up nicely. I'm going to be watching to see how this ends up going. And we're going to be watching to see if this thing could try to break up a 409, if anything. If anything, all-time highs on the QQQ are looking imminent. We're going to continue to break the new all-time highs. We're just going to continue to push as time goes on. So it looks quite nice, quite decent. And we're going to be watching to see if this continues moving forward. But for now, QQQ is holding up, looking very nice. And on the MACD, let me just call this out. It is still favoring the bulls heavily. So because we're trying to hold 408, we're going to be watching this as support now. This was the previous resistance becoming support. So far, so good from the triple Q, and we're going to be watching to see if it holds. We have resistance at 409 and 410. As of right now, it's holding nicely, so we'll be watching this more and more as time goes on. Anyways, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.